Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to season 2 of Conversations in Pop Culture, where I have with me, I guess, a regular at this point. I think it's safe to say, and that's with Ruben Romero. So, welcome back.
Yeah, man, I'm feeling like a co-host. That's what and it ends up being that way when you come back to certain podcasts. You just feel the comfortability factor, and you just slide right in, like you've been there forever.
You're living rent free here right now. That's the whole
I,
point.
I
It's a
am, I
four-time
am.
club. It's a four-time club.
Yeah,
The first
yeah,
member right
yeah.
here.
We're gonna have to do some jackets or like a patch or something.
Jackets are for 5 times, and we're joining Tom Hanks and The Rock on SNL. So there you go.
There we go. There we go. There we
But
go.
but that's probably what, in 6 months from now.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm working hard, man. That's the dream, right? End up there in the box on everybody's in front of everybody's face, you know?
And so obviously we're joking around, we're skipping formalities here, and I really just
Hmm.
want to get right into your next Kickstarter that's coming out on the 28th, and that is The Illusion Witch. And obviously you've been
Yes.
around, and I don't want to go through everything at the top here, and I think this story is very different than your other work, very different from The Agency, Inferi, Three Swords, and it's a little bit more adult, it's a little bit darker, it's dealing with a little bit more of life and I guess sort of the darker sides of life. Not that, 2020 wasn't a dark year by itself, but what is the basic story, just so everybody's caught up with what this is about, The Illusion Witch?
Um, I don't have a hook for you, like I don't have it's this meets that, but Casey, who's my co-creator and my co-writer and good friend, one of my best friends, he said something very interesting the other day, and he said, reading through the scripts, it's kind of like, Houdini and C.S. Lewis sat down and wrote a comic book, and I found that interesting, because it has all of those elements, right? It has the magic, and it has that fantasy, that layer of fantasy, and fantasy world, and getting brought into that fantasy world, those kinds of elements. So, it's like you said, it is a story that does deal with some real heavy issues in terms of our main character and the things that she is internally going through, and how this particular adventure and this situation that she's in right now, kind of makes her have to face those things.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about it. So obviously the main character, and I might be getting the name wrong, and I'm sure you're going to correct me, is Ida or
Adia, Adia,
Idea. And so
yeah, Adia Locke. Adia Locke is our main character.
she's very beautiful, she's talented, and right from the start, and we get the sense from the story that she likes attention, she knows how to draw attention, she likes magic. It's something that she obviously was drawn to, and she's very good at it. She's good at, I don't want to say lie because I'm a big Penn and Teller fan, and all
Right.
magicians lie. I'm not going to pretend, and that's part of the illusion. But she enjoys telling that illusion and sort of, I guess, wielding people and manipulating people. And so, right from the start, before we even start diving into it, we have a very interesting character who really enjoys that aspect of this. And so, I really like her character just on the surface. Because we're obviously going to get into some of the details and the darkness and where it's going and all that stuff.
Right.
But what was it like to sort of preface that? Because you get somewhat of a pass because she's a magician, she's an illusionist, but maybe it's not so much an illusion what she's performing, and the stage is sort of, I guess, what's don't look behind the wizard, I guess, is what I think the stage is for her.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, Adia grew up learning learning illusions, learning tricks. She fell in love with magic at a very early age. We explore a little bit of that, and right from the beginning, and then I fully intend to kind of build on top of that. But there are certain things that happen in Adia's life that cause her to disconnect and move away from what makes us human, which are our emotions, our ability to connect with other human beings, and make them a priority. And I think that, again, it's not a new premise, having somebody who is charming and beautiful, but also somewhat disconnected, and doesn't, you could say the same about Bruce Wayne, but with Adia, there is a real sense of pain in her disconnection. And she doesn't allow herself to feel that pain, to where Bruce lives in it, and it's the reason why he's Batman. Adia refuses to even acknowledge that it happened, right? So if essentially it turns her off to making those connections with people, because she knows deep down inside that she can end up getting hurt. So again, when you don't care about anything but yourself, there's really nothing to worry about, until there is.
Hey Casey, how are you? Just commented. What's up, Casey?
Hey, what up? What up? I already talked about you, man.
So to even get off of Casey, as much as we like Casey, this is about you at the moment. And I'm sure I'm going to get yelled at for that later, but to even go further off of that, she obviously has a lot of pain and she has a lot of success, but she also has a lot of failures. And one of the things that is kind of a failure is that she has a failed marriage, and then she's also being a failed mother. And that's sort of the lack of human connection, where we have this ability where she really is an amazing illusionist and she really is killing it, and people are enthralled by her and they appreciate what she's doing. But then she's having this other problem where she's failing in one sense and being very successful at the exact same time. And it creates a very interesting situation. And she sort of is aware of it all throughout this, and I think that she sort of cares, but she doesn't at the same time while she's dealing with this stuff. And it's very interesting because there are people like that out there, that and it's not fiction. And there's plenty of comic writers who are exactly like that, and they're horrible human beings, yet they're brilliant with their words. I mean, one of my favorite writers is Charles Bukowski, and obviously he lived a very troubled life. And he's brilliant with what he wrote, and what he wrote is so relevant today, even though he was writing about it almost 100 years ago. And so what was that like, really finding those connections, and how she's also sort of self-medicating between the stage and drinking to sort of cope with that? Because obviously this is a real adult topic. It's not, and I don't mean to diminish the agency, but the agency is fun. The agency is in a fantasy world. It's in a bright world where there's trouble. This is sort of in a dark, more cynical world. And so to capture that, what is that like for you, and really to find that? Because obviously, this is real in many ways. And I'm not saying everybody knows somebody like this, but everybody knows a story like this in real life.
And I think that that's what's interesting. I think that right off the bat, once you start to get to know Adia and see how she treats people, you can immediately start to form your own opinion about her. And generally, it's probably not going to be a good one, which was, I guess, intentionally, of course, right? We all write our characters in a certain way, and then allow them to inform us later, down the road. But Adia, from the very beginning, I knew that she, on the surface, was not a good person. This was a person who accepted the fact that she can fire somebody and not worry about whether or not they've got a place to sleep at night, or whether they or throw wine on a stranger who she just shared an intimate experience with. These things are nothing to Adia, because again, they're ways of protecting her. They're ways of keeping people away. So she gets what she wants out of people, and then she discards them. And then, to be able to find that, I'm usually trying to write heroes, right? So I'm, right off the bat, they're all valor and good deeds. And so for Adia, it was interesting because, number one, she was a woman, and I didn't want to get in, I didn't want to do the wrong thing, right? So I allowed myself to think of how people, like you said, in our life that we know that are like this. How do they act? How do they speak?
And usually when I think of people in her situation, I don't think of a woman in that situation, and it sounds sexist, but I usually think, and the first thought when somebody is describing somebody like that, I think of a guy more so, and her behavior is sort of more masculine by definition than it is feminine. And I'll get flack for it, and I'll take the heat on it, but it's very much. I mean, that's what makes this even more interesting on that level as well, where we have a woman doing it, and it's sort of, I don't want to say it's flipping the script and taking the table and throwing it on its side here, but it definitely adds a bit of a twist. But continue.
Yeah, no, I think, human, female or male, it's natural to suppress emotions, it's one of those things in life where it's almost like a flight or a fight, reflex. When my mom passed away, I pushed it down. You know what I'm saying? Like I tried to, put the blinders on and kind of just keep moving forward until until you get a gut punch and you accept reality, right? So that to me was the turn of the card for me. Was how does Adia accept her realities, right? How does Adia deal with the things that she's done? And again, you'll learn what those things are very early on. How does she deal with that? How does she deal with reality when she is in reality? And that, to me, that's where my, the fantasy part comes in, right? So to me, it's always about a crucible, a trial. The way you grow as a person is by going through things and coming out the other side. So I wanted Adia to be who she was on stage in real life. And the only way that she could be that perfect and that amazing in real life was if she accepts and is allowed to move forward, from the things of her past. And in doing so, I created an adventure. I created a crucible for her to go through. And I think that, it's going to be heavy and it's going to hit some emotional points. But it's going to tell a genuine story about a person who does need to grow if they want to be, if they want to live.
Yeah, and to just even further add to that, I mean, she does trust sort of one person as well, and that's interesting, and that's her manager, and obviously there's a connection to her dad and the manager before her dad passed away, and so obviously not all emotion is lost. So there is that glimpse of hope that is thrown into this, and whether that's going to be relevant or not somewhere down the line. So it's not that she's completely hopeless. There is that small little spark, and so I really like that there's that small little spark still in play. But let's talk about this trial and what she's going to have to go through, because obviously she is into magic, and well, there's creatures, spirits, animals, something is calling to her. Maybe it's not for her sake, maybe it's for somebody else's sake, maybe she's a pawn in a game that is going to ultimately benefit her, but obviously some magic is now being introduced beyond just pulling off an illusion. So what is about to happen, or can you hint at? Because there's some stuff about to go on that's going to require her to sort of step up tremendously and deal with some of her mishaps.
Right.
And redemption is I think the word here.
Right. To a certain extent, yes. So I wanted to put her in a situation where it was larger than life, right? And it wasn't some sort of trick or magic in terms of not being real, right? She needed to go somewhere and really go through something. So I created a mirror world to our world, and that mirror world is a fantasy world named or called Sarai, and in Sarai, it is fantasy to its core. The world is inhabited by animals who speak, who have a certain level of intellect, down to ones that don't. You've got all sorts of races from, elves to giants to, swamp creatures, all kinds of things that we're going to meet along the way. And then there is a particular group of people who protect Sarai, or who have always protected Sarai, called the Circle. And the Circle, it includes a family, the Kelvin family, who is the wife, the husband, and their son Orion. You've got Baru, and you have Syria, and you have the Siren. And the Siren is kind of like, she's like the MacGuffin of the story, so to speak. She is life embodied, right? If I can put it in a certain way, in that aspect, where she is knowledge, she is power, she is magic. But with all of that inside yourself, your physical doesn't survive very long. You know what I'm saying? And it's being in Sarai that allows a person to hold that power for ages or centuries, right? And the Siren was at a certain point getting ready to transfer her power to who she thought were three brothers who were pure of heart, and something horribly goes wrong, and the Siren is tricked, and she ends up defenseless, to where Kelvin and his clan and the rest of the Circle have to kind of protect her for a certain amount of time. And throughout the story, not a big spoiler here, but at some point, the Siren tells them that there is somebody who is worthy, but she's not in Sarai. That she is on a place called Earth, and that's kind of where our adventure takes off. You know what I'm saying? And again, everything that I'm telling you is kind of in like a cup with like the ball hidden underneath. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna get this kind of intro story, but just broken up into different parts, and you're gonna get fed different pieces of information in different places. But it's all gonna follow the linear story of Adia, right? But we are going to delve into, her past and Sarai's past, and how they kind of all collide, and then go forward from there. So, it's one of those things where I'm turning the card as we go, and you're going to learn a little bit more as we go, and hopefully, my fingers crossed, my hope is that by the end of it, Adia is somebody who maybe you did not really understand or really like at the beginning of it, but by the end of it, my hope is that you've shed some tears with her, and you've grown to really love her as a person.
Yeah, and to even go over that, because I think obviously we're going on a journey here with her, and we're going on a journey to another world, and obviously characters going on journeys has been around forever. That's the whole point of storytelling. Every good story is a journey. But I think that this journey is going to be very much I don't think it's going to be a happy ending. I don't think it's going to be a sad ending. I think it's going to be a resolution, is where I think it's going to be. And I think that things are going to be a certain direction. And I have an idea, and I'm going to pitch it to you after we're off the air, so not to ruin anything, but I have an idea of how it's going to end, just off the top of my head. But I'm going to digress right there, because I don't want to ruin too much of this stuff. And obviously, book 1 is coming out, or Kickstarter's starting. I shouldn't say it's coming out.
Right.
Starting on the 28th is when you can start backing it. And then obviously, your Kickstarters are 2-3 months, sometimes 4 months out.
30 days. 30 days. We got 30 days, and we'll run it for 30 days. We got we're in full art production right now. So probably by the 28th, the book will be, 7 or 8 pages away from being completed. And by the time the Kickstarter ends, it'll be done art wise. My colorist, PH Fuller, like he should have everything. Not PH Fuller, excuse me, PH Gomez. He should have, all the work done as well. So I'm thinking by the time this thing wraps up, I'll be able to just wait on that, that Kickstarter situation to go through. I'll probably already have some of the rewards, ready to here at the house, ready to pack up, and then just, get that reward money and be able to print up the books and some of the other more stuff like the shirts and the hoodies that I'm offering and things like that. But yeah, no, I mean, it's going to be a fun ride. It's going to be a fun ride, I think.
Yeah, so let's talk about a little bit about the book side and the art side. And
Right.
I know that Andrea Ireco or
Erico. hmm
Erico is drawing
hmm
the book, and he's done a bunch of stuff with Zenoscope and a few others. And so he's done a lot of stuff, which is like pinups and things like that. And he's done, quote unquote, some good girl art, I think is a safe way to put it. And so, how did he get involved with the project? Because he doesn't really do many interior works.
Yeah, man. His work spoke for himself. He sent me, he sent me his work. He sent me a portfolio of interior work, and I went through it, and I saw some high concept fantasy stuff that I liked, that I saw from him, that I enjoyed. And then he had a bunch of Guardians of the Galaxy pieces for me, like for the portfolio for me to see. And I don't think essentially he ever worked on Guardians, but probably just test pages for Marvel and things like that. And maybe Marvel didn't see what I saw, but I saw talent, and I really saw somebody who has a dynamic eye for telling stories, which is important, obviously, for comics. So I asked him, I pitched him the idea. I told him what the book was about. He flattered my ego a little bit. He was like, "Oh man," like he read the script, and I can't recall what he compared it to, but it was a couple of things that I was like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "All right, cool. That's awesome. I like that you like that, and that you compare it to that." So that's definitely, a good vibe. And we just started talking, and we hit it off right away. And very early on, he sent me a concept of Adia, and I was like, this is it. This is what I'm looking for. So I started working with him.
Yeah, so even to talk further, so one of the things, and I don't think I've ever asked you this, and I'm actually not really curious, is that like when you're looking for an artist, where do you even throw it out to? Because I know that obviously you've done a bunch of other stuff, the agency, Three Swords, and Vari, obviously Casey has a big pool to pull from. And so where do you even throw out ideas? Because I think this is the first time you're working with Andrea. And
Yeah.
so, because that's something that I think a lot of people want to know, and I think that's a big question for a lot of comic writers. And I actually don't know the answer to this. Some questions I know what's going to be said. I know a lot about the business. This is something I actually don't know about, where you even throw something out. Because I know there's like DeviantArt, ArtStation is out there, but I don't know like
Yeah.
what you throw out there.
Yeah, I mean that's where I started. That's what I did. I went and I put a post up on DeviantArt. To be honest with you, I was actually looking for an artist for another project that I've got tucked away right now called Stay Safe Out There. And I started getting art, from people, and then he popped up, and I had just finished writing the first two scripts for The Illusion Witch, and Casey came back and he was like, "Dude, it's great. Like, this is awesome. This can be really amazing." A good friend of ours, who is the co-host and co-writer of Pursuit of Plastic, and the co-host at Don't Forget a Towel, Chris Walk, he also read it, and came back with some really great feedback and encouragement, and I let a few other people read it, and people just seemed to take to it. Like it just seemed like people liked it. So I was like, okay, I really love where I'm going with this. Maybe I'll, like I said, I'll deprioritize Stay Safe Out There, and I'll prioritize Illusion Witch, and that's what I did. And then that kind of prompted me to start just going through the art. I went to Facebook as well, started talking to a couple friends. I originally had plans of having Stan Yak do the book, and that kind of fell through last minute. So I had to start the hunt again. Fortunately, Stan was able to do the variant cover for the book, and hopefully he'll come back and do some more for us down the line. But a blessing in disguise. At the end of the day, I found that Andrea, and we've got a great working relationship, and he understands the where I'm going and what I'm trying to do with this. And he's just been great so far. I sent you a few of the pages, and as you can see, I mean, he's definitely. It's crazy because if I show you two pages and then I show you the other two pages, they look like two different books. Like they look like two different stories. And that's what I love about issue one is that, and a lot of issue too is a lot of back and forth a little bit between worlds. So it's almost feels like two different stories. And then once it like they collide hard, then at that point we go through that one storyline. But yeah, I mean it's just it's been a lot of fun with Andrea. He's got a lot of passion for the story, and he's excited to be a part of the book. So what more can I ask for,
And I'm going to take the assumption here, and I leave it faith, that I think he's going to be signed on for all the books, and I think there's 6 of them that are coming out. And I think that he's very interested in being on all 6 if his schedule allows.
If his schedule allows. Yeah, if his schedule allows. With Kickstarter, it's difficult. And being an indie creator, you kind of have to keep turning the cog, so to speak. So after Illusion Witch, Casey has a project planned, and then we have In Fairy coming out, and then I might follow that up with the agency, and then circle back to Illusion Witch, maybe 2 and 3, and knock those 2 out of the way. My idea, and even for his schedule as well, we kind of have to match up, so we also want to be able to put out at least 2 or 3 issues of In Fairy this year, hopefully, God willing. And again, those are all Kickstarters and plans and, days that go by.
We're going to talk about that, because that's a whole different ball game to talk about, and it's complicated, and 2020 is one thing, 2021 is a different, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But I do want to talk about the rewards that are coming out. And I know that the Kickstarter's not live. I know there's Stan Yak variant cover.
Right.
Stan Yak is kind of like Steph Wilson in many ways, making the Kickstarter variant rounds as of lately. So obviously, I think I know how Stan Yak got involved, and I think either Casey's done a cover with Stan Yak before, or you have, or maybe I'm mistaken. Somebody that you guys know has done something.
Bob Sally actually has a book called Broken Gargoyles with Stan, and it was through him that I made the connection. And then I want to say I think I'm going to mess up his name, but he has a go-between. I can't remember his name for the life of me, and I don't know where I put my phone down, so I'm not going to look through it. But he has a go-between, and he kind of set up the whole situation, and then me and Stan started to talk about what the cover would look like, and what I was trying to convey.
Because Stan is obviously one of those guys that's doing the rounds, and it's kind of like there's maybe 4 or 5 people on Kickstarter right now who are doing Kickstarter variants big time. I mentioned Steph Wilson for a reason. I mentioned Stan Yak for a reason. Obviously, both of those people are doing stuff in that realm, and they're not. I don't think Stan Yak is working for a DC or Marvel at the moment.
Not yet.
Not yet. But I think he's doing a lot of indie projects, and he does a lot of work, my understanding. So sorry to interrupt, but I want to make that clear, where it's like if you are on Kickstarter and you don't know who Stan Yak is, or you don't know who Steph Wilson is, obviously you're really not on Kickstarter.
Right. Obviously. So we've got Stan's variant cover, which features our villain, the 3. That's what they're called. And again, we'll get a lot of story on them as well as the story develops as the books go through. But I wanted to highlight the villain. The cover is actually going to be a naked cover. There won't be any logos or numberings or anything like that.
You need a virgin cover.
Yeah, virgin cover, naked cover. Whatever terminology you like to use.
You have to get our terms right here. I'm gonna have to send you to my class.
There you go. So the virgin cover, untouched, so to speak. So you'll get that. We've got some really awesome hoodies, because I'm a huge fan of hoodies, and even though I live in Florida, I always find myself in a hoodie. We got an awesome t-shirt. We got a t-shirt, hoodies. I've got a friend who is a woodworker, and he does like wood burning and things like that. And he created some custom wood coasters, drink coasters, for the campaign that are pretty badass.
Which really is for you, and you're just trying to justify it, right?
I mean, I'm not a big drinker,
Sure.
But the those who like to, pour a nice little glass of something, and put it down on the table while they read, you don't want to leave a little ring behind, throw a little Illusion Witch coaster underneath there with it's really cool because it's almost got like this horror feel to it. It looks like it says the Illusion Witch, and it's got like a key because issue 1 there's a key that plays a role in it, and it looks like almost like scratched in there by like some evil monster or something. Like, looks really horror-esque almost. It's really cool, and it's got like this black border where it looks solid black, but when you hold it up to the light, it almost looks like smoke, so it's really cool. Like, even the coaster itself has like a little illusion tucked in it. So we've got that. I've got an amazing digital bundle. I've got a group of creators who came together and said, hey man, here's my book, put it out there. Hopefully it'll help your Kickstarter. So I've got guys like Bob Sally with Broken Gargoyles #1. I've got a few others in there. Casey's throwing stuff in there. I've got a bunch of good creators. Stephanie Maynard, Mike Tenner, who's doing Black Jackets, just a bunch like that. I can't even remember them. So I've got a nice little digital bundle there for you guys as well. Obviously, the digital version of Illusion Witch, coasters, T-shirts, physical copies. We've got beautiful. There's going to be a collectible postcard of art that goes along with each of these Kickstarters for the Illusion Witch that is going to be done by one artist and one artist only, and her name is Alex Monick. And she already did the first one. It's actually going to grace the inside front cover, but there will be a postcard that I will not duplicate at all for cons, if we ever go back to cons, or for the web store, or for anything. These will be Kickstarter exclusive. They're not numbered because that's a mission, but they are going to be Kickstarter exclusive only. I'm only going to print up as many as I need for the Kickstarter, and that will be it. And she will be doing a piece for each, and then for each book, so to speak, that you'll be able to collect and put together, in a nice little frame. And yeah, man, there's going to be a few add-ons, things that I'm still not 100% on just yet. I'm still doing some talking to a couple artists behind the scenes in terms of some stretch goals. I don't want to name any names, but I'm going after, an industry, somebody who's in the industry right now, is on Image. She's got a book, but it's just all about timing. So it's, depending on where we are.
There's three people that it can only be. There's three people it can only be, and I'm not going to name names either.
Yeah, but I don't want to name any names because that might be a stretch goal that we might not get to. But something that I do want to talk about, that I do want to mention before I completely forget. I did something with this book that I think is very interesting. Casey came up with the idea, but we were able to do it through the book because the opportunity presented itself. So there is an Easter egg. Excuse me, that's my text coming through. There's an Easter egg inside the Illusion Witch #1.
Oh, so you're yoking it up.
Huh?
You're yoking this up. I've been waiting to use that joke for legitimately like 3 months. So please, I've been waiting, and I get to drop it. So continue. I'm so sorry. The opportunity was just too good.
I'm yoking it up. Comic books nowadays, I think, they have the opportunity to be able to be so many things, right? And again, the beautiful thing about comic books is that you're constantly dissecting them, looking at each panel, looking at the art, appreciating the art, and then following the story and appreciating the story. So I thought, Casey was like, hey, how about if we put an Easter egg in the book that allows them to interact with the book, right? With the book in a certain way, with the story in a certain way. So there is an awesome little Easter egg inside the Illusion Witch #1 that's going to allow you to, I guess, interact, I guess is a good word, with our story in a certain way. And
let me ask the question, because are we going QR code? Are we going virtual reality? Because Val Scally did that, which is super cool. And
right.
I'm throwing just that idea out here because
it's more, it's not a QR code, I can tell you that. There's something inside the comic book where normally, like I said, I don't want to give too much away, but normally you probably just roll right by it and not think twice about it. But if you sit down and you kind of, you know, dissect the book and find a way to interact with the book, there are going to be 5 lucky people who are going to receive a mystery box from DFAT Comics, which is Don't Forget a Towel Comics. That's, you know, Casey's label, Casey and Chris Walk's, Casey Bowker's and Chris Walk's label. They got the podcast, you know all about it. Don't Forget a Towel podcast. They got the website, which is all geek culture, and now they've got their imprint because they've got Pursuit of Plastic and they've got Hollowed, and they've graciously brought me on board. The agency is now a part of that. The Illusion Witch is going to be a part of that. So at the end of the day, you know, they're going to get a mystery box filled with some DFAT goodies, you know, stickers, shirts, comics, you know, all kinds of things that, you know, you might really enjoy and love, being a comic book lover and a geek. And then you get the ultimate prize. One of those 5 will get the ultimate prize of they won't have to donate to Kickstarter 2, 3, 4, or 5. They will get issues 2, 3, 4, and 5 sent to them, minus the rewards, right? They'll just be getting physical copies of the book sent to them for discovering the Easter egg. So if they want to back, they can back it, but you know, either way.
So just to even talk about this though, every book is going to have the Easter egg in it, right?
Nope, just issue 1. This
Kickstarter. Let me clarify just so everybody knows, because it's confusing what you just said. So if you get the book and you're just reading it and you can't find the Easter egg, it's in there somewhere, right? In every single comic, every single issue 1, you can find
every issue 1,
right?
Yeah, every issue 1 will have the Easter egg in it. It's just up to you to find it.
That's the question, because the way that was said, it's like there's only 5 of them. I know immediately someone's gonna have that question.
No. There's only 5 winners. There will only be 5 winners. You know, so you know, and again, depending on how it all works out, I mean, you know, there might be some, you know, digital giveaways and things like that. But like in terms of the mystery box, like the goodie box, only 5 people will win, and only 1 will win the ultimate golden, you know, the golden ticket for the Illusion, which grants them issues 2, 3, 4, and 5, and maybe 6, depending on, you know, how I feel, you know, and where we are in the story. But yes, it's, you know, in the end, it's slated for 5 issues. It could be 6 because I don't want to rob anybody, especially myself, of story. You know, so it might take me a little longer to get it out, but at the end of the day, like, I want to be able to tell a full story for you guys to sit back and say, oh, you know, Ruben really did, you know, think of everything. So it might be 5 to 6 issues to tell the story of Adia Locke and the Illusion Witch. But yeah, if you know, only 1 lucky winner out of the Easter egg hunt will get all of those issues subsequently without having to donate to the Kickstarter, the subsequent Kickstarters.
So we're going to table the Illusion Witch right there, because I do want to talk about the Kickstarter side of things, because I am personally more fascinated with Kickstarter. I'm more fascinated with the economic side of the business, with production. That stuff just fascinates me. And obviously, I'm way into comic book investing and all that stuff. But Kickstarter has gotten very interesting, probably, I would say, since March to now. And so I do want to talk about 2020 Kickstarter, because you were on 3 times in pretty much 2020, and we spoke a lot about it. And so the industry has changed in what I call the middle of COVID. So Kickstarter had a pre-COVID position, then it had a COVID position part 1. And so what changed in the middle of COVID with Kickstarter, just so everybody gets an idea, those who are listening?
I mean, at the end of the day, we're home, right? You know, we all need content. We need more things to do, right? So, you know, RPGs are getting a lot of play on Kickstarter. Comic books, novels, you know, things like that are getting a lot of play because people are home. You know, I'm not on the food side, or, you know, or the appliance side, or the tech side, but I bet you anything, you know, anything that's related to making your life easier at home or more entertaining, excuse me, is probably doing gangbusters. So, comic books don't fall short from that. At the end of the day, if they know they can back a comic now, and a month later get one, in their mailbox. If you're already reading comics and you're already a fan, if you're not spending money going out at a restaurant or going to the movies or, doing whatever, going on vacation, and you've got that extra income, $200-$300, $400, a year or a month or whatever you might have extra, what's the matter with what's the matter with throwing $10-$20 on random Kickstarters here and there? So I think that's what we're seeing an age of people being home and having things that they need to keep them entertained, and I think at the end of the day, like, let's be real here, it's not like comics weren't funding on Kickstarter, right? Like, they were just not as much as they are now, I think. And I think that has a lot to do with people being home, but that does build in a market, right? Because now everybody goes home, but now for the last year, you've become a Kickstarter backer, you've become a Kickstarter head, so it kind of becomes a hobby, right? And like a thing. So you're there. So it's just building the market, man. COVID, excuse my language, fucked up a lot of things, but at the end of the day, it also paved way for opportunities like these to kind of flourish, right?
So let's talk about Part B, because Part B is way more interesting, because now 2021, and I'm a pessimistic person, which means I'm always right, one way or another. It's just a matter of time. And whether that's good or bad is up for everybody to judge. But I see that cons didn't happen in 2020. And so obviously people weren't going to cons, people weren't seeing new things, people weren't experiencing that. And I'm not saying Kickstarter is the replacement for that, but it's a little bit of the replacement for that to some degree.
It is.
Where it fills the need a little bit. It gives you a little bit of a taste, and it makes a shitty situation less shitty, for lack of a better word, I think is a nice way to put it. And so, along with some virtual cons and some other stuff that's happened. But obviously, I think it's safe to say for the first 6 months, conventions aren't coming back in the U.S., and I think that's extremely optimistic. And I think that things are complicated. I think that without going through the entire COVID situation and everything that's ensued with it, I just think they're not coming back. Nor do I think all of these cities and states and convention centers want 30,000 people all being on top of each other, dry humping each other and breathing down each other's necks so quickly. I think it's a safe bet to take. So I'm curious how you feel about Kickstarter going forward in 2021, because 2020 was the experiment, and I think 2021 is going to be, okay, what does Kickstarter phase 2 look like in this? And then obviously my question after this, and you can answer, is that even going beyond that, what does it look like in a year from now when things start to become normal? Because I don't think that we're going backwards. I think this is here to stay.
Right. Well, like I said, I mean, it's been a proven winner for a while now. I know several creators who are constantly winning on Kickstarter and doing what they do and building their fan base and building their library of work. So I think that the industry is seeing, and we're going to see this in waves, the opportunity for Kickstarter and what crowdfunding can do. We're seeing it right now with the Boom Kickstarter, with the Power Ranger collected sets. If it was a $50,000 Kickstarter, they're almost at $500,000. They are slowly but surely starting to figure out that Kickstarter is another avenue. You don't necessarily have to print up a massive amount of these books and hope that comic book stores order them, right? And that fans walk into the store and buy them so that the store orders some more, right? So now they say, okay, how many people are really interested in a compendium, and how much do you want to pay for it? And if we can add on, cool slip covers and autographs and things like that are going to cost us nothing as a company, cents on a dollar, if that, where's the, like, I can guarantee you right now that there's an executive at Boom Studios sitting back looking at that Kickstarter, laughing his little ass off. You know what I'm saying? And for good reason, because it works, right? So again, there's different, you know, views to kind of take a look at this and say, okay, this is going to work here and this is not going to work there, or this is all going to end up, you know, at the end of the day going belly up. But I think that as long as people are reading comics and as long as there's independent creators, there's always going to be something like a Kickstarter that's going to be able to help that creator meet his goals, to be able to start his fan base and feed his fan base, or his or her fan base. So again, I don't think that, I think like you, I see a continuation of protocols, and, you know, not going into all the COVID talk, but of things being similar to what they were in 2020. I don't think we're going to see 30-40,000 people packed into a convention center. You know, I don't think we're going to see that.
Not for a while.
And not for a while. I think that, you know, so in the meantime, people are going to go to Kickstarter. Comic book heads are going to go to Kickstarter. People who like that kind of stuff are going to go to Kickstarter. And us independent creators are going to continue to use it, because we are ourselves are losing out on revenue as well. Because, you know, me going to a comic book convention where it costs me, you know, my books that I've already printed up because I'm selling them online and I need a reservoir or reserve of books. So what's it, you know, those books are already paid for. I'm paying for a $75 or $150 table, you know, or if I really want to go big, I'm paying $350, $450 for a booth, you know, and I bring my banners and I sit there, or I stand there for 72 hours, you know, 3 days straight, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, sometimes Thursday through Sunday. And believe you me, that each book that I sell is me building my fan base and me building revenue to be able to go back and out and make more issues, you know, and in a weekend where I used to make a good amount of money, right? And say, okay, I can now put this into issue 6 and 7. You know, people wonder, oh, how'd you get issues 1 through 5 so quick to the agency? Well, yeah, I had a little bit of help with an investor, but we also did comic cons for issues 1 and 2 the whole year. We didn't stop. So we were constantly funneling that money back into the project. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things where that piece of revenue has gone away from us. So I don't have that anymore. You know, so now I got to use Kickstarter to where I used to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to pony up the dough and get the first book done. And then I can go out there and sell issue 1, you know, and then I might have to invest in issue 2. But by the time I'm at issue 3 and I'm selling at cons, I can pay to get 4, 5, 6 done through cons. You know what I'm saying? And still have to, you know, to move on to the next con and get another booth or another table. But I digress again. So it's just one of those things where like we're losing out, you know, because of that. So Kickstarter is our only alternative, you know, and it shows in the success of the Kickstarters. Like all last year, I saw some great books come out, and a lot of great books got funded in a few days, you know, and some books took a little bit longer than others, but they got funded. So I think 2021 is going to be a continuation of that. I think Kickstarter was smart for pointing it out and making sure that when you hit the website, it says, hey, are you thinking about launching a project? Here's why you should, you know, and what are the percentages? 61% up funding, you know, 61% more. So again, it's like, there's a lot of good in here, you know, to take away.
Yeah, and I mean, I have a slightly different opinion, and I've never funded anything on Kickstarter, but I definitely think that there's a shift now. And I think that there's going to be a big shift where I think the model now isn't that, okay, I have to pony up my money for my first issue. And maybe you agree with me, where now
right.
the goal is to say, okay, maybe I got to put $500 in, and then I'm going to fund $2,500, and I need $3,000
Right.
to get, but I don't need $3,000 now. And I think there's
Right.
been a shift in that mentality where, and I also think that mentality is going to be going forward. Even when cons come back, I really think that's where things are going. And so I don't know how
Right.
you feel about that, where I think that this is now a big shift where people are now using Kickstarter, what its intended purpose was to be, which was to fund a cool project and not as a pre-order form. And I get both elements of it, but I think that COVID has actually restored Kickstarter to what it was intended to be, which was to say, I got this cool idea, I need help funding it, and I need somebody to meet me halfway or 80% of the way. They're getting a cool project. I'm not making a killing on it, or I'm making no money on it, but now this project gets done and I want to tell this story, which was, I thought how Kickstarter was built originally. At least on comics, I thought it was that way. And I think the pre-order form happened, and then now I think we're sort of in a hybrid of that. And that's just my observations.
Yeah, I think you've got, your major publishers who use it more as a pre-order, right? Because they were going to order these books anyway, right? So that's that. And again, that goes back to the whole boom situation. They were going to do those Power Ranger compendiums anyway, right? But they said the only way that it's affordable is if we sell, or if we print up 5 million of each. Like, that's the only way it's cost effective for our business. Well, how are we going to get that money back immediately? Kickstarter. It's direct to consumer. You don't have to worry about your fan base going into a store and finding it, or a store owner looking at $100 book and knowing he can only mark it up 15%, 10%, to actually move it. So what, he's in all actuality going to order one of each compendium, which there's like 6 volumes, right? So you get one of each, and that's it. He's not ordering 2 or 3 of each volume. Why? Because he's not certain that they're going to move, right? So this again, just a smart move on their part, where they're saying, we're going to order 5 million of these things. Let's get rid of 2 million like this through Kickstarter. You know what I'm saying? So again, it's just a smart thing. And again, for us indie creators, it's more of an issue by issue. I would love to get the Illusion Witch on a true publisher. DFAT Comics is an imprint more than a publisher, right? We're like an imprint label. We're all friends. We all put out comics under the same flag, but like, we're not in Diamond. We're not in comic book stores. We don't have that revenue, right? We don't have that ability.
Publishing is a whole different ballgame. Watch my interview,
right.
where he speaks about the money that he spent to get into Barnes and Noble, and his losses as a publisher is massive.
Well, we talked about this. I've been around since 2014. I did Think Alike Productions. I started my own publishing label. I bought my barcodes. I did my LLC. I had the agency 1, 2, 3, and then we jumped into the trade, in comic book stores. And again, without a massive marketing production, you know what I'm saying, marketing budget, you're not going to be able to really move a lot of copies, right? You can move some, but you're not going to move a lot. And that's where the cons come in, because at the end of the day, like, the trades that we didn't sell at Diamond, they held on to for a little bit, but then you send a little email and you pay for your shipping, and they send them right to you, because those are your prints. You pay for those prints. You know what I'm saying? You pay for them, right? So they're yours. They're just distributing them for you. So at the end of the day, it's like, listen, this is the situation. You cannot, be mad at one side and then go and hooray for the other. Like, it all has to be unity, bro. And then there's room enough for everybody. Do I think Keanu, like we talked about before, do I think Keanu Reeves needs to do a Kickstarter? No, I think he's Keanu Reeves. I think if you say, hey, this is Keanu Reeves comic book, it's going to sell. People, all you got to do is put that in Diamond. People will order, the comic book stores will order it, and they will make sure that their Patreons know of it. You don't need to do it, but it's there. It's a platform. I'm not gonna be mad if they do it, right? So at the end of the day, I can only hope that out of that $500,000 that the Power Rangers got, that I get like a 0.1% of those people to come and fund the Illusion Witch, right? And hopefully build my audience and continue to build my fan base of the Romero verse. And hopefully that'll be something that happens. And that's why I continue to work hard for it, man. And that's why I continue to push. And that's why I love working with Casey. And I love working and I love seeing guys like Bob Sally and Mike Tenner, those guys, the success that they're having with their books as of recently it's been amazing. You know what I'm saying? It's been amazing to watch. So it's one of those things where, I'm happy that we've got this platform, and I'm happy that we're able to do it. So,
yeah, I think we just beat COVID up a little bit. I think we beat Kickstarter up pretty hard right now, and I think we hit it pretty solid there. And I do want to give you an opportunity to promote yourself, because I know the Illusion Witch, obviously the 28th, that's coming. You got a bunch of other stuff. So where can people find all of your stuff? And obviously we have 3 other interviews. All that stuff's available on Facebook. It's available on YouTube. It's probably going to be available on a few other, areas. It's not on Twitch, guys. That's brand new for me. So I'm brand new on Twitch. So sorry that's a season 2 thing. But it's on YouTube. It's on Facebook, which is Pop Anime Comics. If anybody wants to get a more in-depth discussion. But where can people find this stuff, pick it up? Also, where can people be notified? Because I know that you could follow the Kickstarter and be notified when it goes live as well.
Yeah, you're right. So Twitter is, my favorite place. I love Twitter. So you can find me at Ruben the Writer. There you should be able to kind of just follow along. I post stuff for the Illusion Witch and any project that I'm on. I talk a lot about my writing and the other stuff that I'm doing. You can also find me on Facebook, Ruben Romero. You can friend request me, or you can just go to my Ruben the Writer page and just follow that page. So I'm there, all those platforms, including Instagram at Ruben the Writer. So all of those platforms are going to kind of be able to backtrack you to any of the Kickstarters that I'm doing. Currently, there's a few links for the Illusion Witch out for you to be able to follow the project and get notified when it launches on January 28th. But yeah, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, I'm all there, man. The only place I'm not at is, I've got a Snapchat, but I don't really, maybe I'm just like, I turned 40 this year, so maybe I'm just too old for Snapchat. But I'm on everything else. No TikTok. I do partake and watch TikToks, but I don't create TikToks. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and make sure that you come and check out the Illusion Witch January 28th on Kickstarter. If you can't find the link, or you don't want to follow me on social media, which is okay too, but you want to learn more about the project, just search the Illusion Witch on January 28th on Kickstarter.
Well, on that note, we're going to wrap up, but I've been saying it to everybody, every interview. Obviously, you have to support indie. The best way to support indie is obviously with money, throwing money, whether it's $1 or $100 or anywhere in between is super important. But more importantly, let's say that you're in a tight spot economically and you're taking care of yourself, you're taking care of your family, you're taking care of your dog, your cat, making sure you got electricity, water, a roof over your head. Please do that first. I'm the first person to say, hey, if you can't support me or throw me anything or throw anybody else anything, because you got to take care of you first, please do that. That is the most important things. Things are tough. Things are about to get a lot tougher in the U.S., especially with us heading into the winter and the unknown coming with COVID and everything else. So please take care of yourself. But if you're in that situation where you can't afford to go and support somebody economically, obviously Ruben just mentioned a bunch of social media, and you should follow at least on one of those. All that social media stuff is free. Obviously, I get that some people don't like Twitter, some people like Instagram more, different people like different things, but obviously all that stuff is free. So please, you go follow, because it means so much to every creator, as well as it's just informing. And when you're on social media, it's not just any more following. A lot of it now is that you have to also like, engage, and share, comment, shoot somebody a message. Nobody gets angry. You say, hey, I really like what you did here. Thank you.
Right.
Nobody gets angry with anybody about that. So I really encourage everybody to go do that, because it is super, super important at this stage. And if you are supporting economically, you should still be following on social media. And you don't have to do every social media thing. You get brownie points if you do it, but please, one of those things is super helpful. So I really encourage everybody to go check that out.
Definitely.
And I think that's a wrap.
All right. Well, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for having me. Obviously,